Alright, hello everybody! Welcome! Today we'll be taking a look at Ratchet Clank 2, and listen, I know how excited you all are, but please, put that thing back in your pants, okay? Because this isn't going Commando, it's locked and loaded. And oh boy, you can bet I'm locked and loaded. They should have called this game Fully Talked, because I'm so excited to talk about it that I'm practically ovulating. So let's start kicking ass one planet at a time. Are they allowed to say that? So, quick story. This game was my earliest exposure to the franchise. With my PS2 back in the day came a demo disc highlighting some of the most anticipated releases that year. Honestly, one of the best demos I've ever seen. But Ratchet 2 in particular stole the show with its sheer abundance of content, a sign of things to come no doubt. With the full Mactar Resort level, gladiator challenges with my homie Chainblade, side areas, and access to all of the hoverbike racing on Planet Barlow, man, this little man had his weekly ritual of booting the disc almost every Saturday morning and losing myself in the crisp action and the glorious worlds of the PlayStation 2, wondering why I never actually got around to playing it for myself. It must have been a decade before I eventually played the game for the very first time, a run plagued with glitches so bad that I ultimately traded the game in for Looney Tunes' Acme Arsenal. God, what have I done? And here we are, almost another decade later, can you believe? But you all asked for it, so now you shall receive. It's time to finally review Ratchet 2. Releasing only 12 months after the original, almost to the day, very impressive work from Insomniac. Coming off of such a solid debut, I'm truly pumped to give this a fresh run. Oh my god, look at Ratchet there, playing his own game. What a narcissist. Oh, you're back. Well, I mean, we spent all the money on this lavish costume, so might as well make the most of it. After defeating Chairman Drek and succumbing to stagnant relevance, yikes, the duo are recruited to another galaxy to help the mum-fumbling, fun-bumbling fuckwit Professor Fizzwidget, who hires us to work for Megacorp. They produce home appliances, weapons of mass destruction, you know, your average stocking stuffers, to help thwart a masked villain who's captured one of their projects. The game starts without Clank riding shotgun, which is a little weird at first, but works well as an introduction, and the opening level really sets the scene. Almost immediately you're overcome with quality of life improvements. Base weapons all feel a lot more effective, the weapon wheel pauses gameplay now, and Ratchet can strafe side to side during gunfights, which honestly completes the gun combat. I don't think it needs anything else. The gunplay is just as fun and explosive as ever throughout the entire game, and given this is before the era of cover-based third-person shooters, you've just gotta let it all hang out, making every encounter contagiously thrilling. But where is Clank in all of this? Well, first we've got to get across the galaxy, which means intergalactic firefights. Occasionally we'll be wrangled into space battles, and these are pretty fun. I'm glad to see the flight gameplay has been fleshed out a little more, and you can always return to these later on for additional challenges and rewards, so they don't outstay their welcome. I'm still in shock at the sheer variety these games possess that prevent the gameplay from ever feeling tired. Once we rescue Clank and the team are back together, Clank can't wait to get his hands dirty either, thwomping baddies and picking up some baddies. Am I right, guys? Clank's puzzle platforming makes a comeback now with some additional helpers that can transform into bridges, lift heavy objects, or just bloody whack shit, which is kind of fun. A bit more gimmicky, but what are you gonna do? I'm just stoked to be back in action with such a lively duo, now fine-tuned as the best of friends without any of the forced social turmoil. Thank God that's over with. Environments remain nice and destructive, with those glorious bolts cascading into Ratchet's wallet. It seems much more efficient now to earn larger amounts of cash, so we won't be needing to rely on any glitches to get everything here, thankfully. But we've also got a lot of new toys to get our grubby little mitts onto, which is a thrill. The weapons were the standout megastar of the first game, so let's see what Megacorp has up their sleeves. We've got the Blitz gun, the mini turret glove, the bouncer, oh this one is so fun to use, and the chopper. Okay, let me just say that this thing shits for the birds. I've never found a suitable use case for it unless I've burned through all of my other ammunition. Upgraded it can be a little better, but well, we'll get to that. Then there is the lava gun, which is a much purchase for dispatching hordes of bad guys, and if you find yourself feeling overwhelmed, the synthanoids can tag along and offer cover fire in heated situations. And almost immediately we're introduced to a plethora of new gadgets, such as the tractor beam, which blew my mind as a kid. Probably one of my earliest exposures to the concept of interactive objects. It's a shame that this isn't used more often in general. We've also got the Sheepinator, which is a reskin of the Morpho Ray, and some more situational items like the Spider Bot, which is used to access small spaces and turn on switches. It's not super effective as a weapon, but cool to see, and extra cool to see Insomniac bring it back for the Spider-Man games. So overall, there are still peaks and valleys when looking at everything, but each weapon at least has its own identity this time around, which is probably more than could be said for the first game. The volume of tools in our back pocket has vastly increased, but if you'd like to kick it old school like it's 2002, then you can still access most of your weapons from the original game if you have a save file on your memory card. Well, that's how it was back in the day. Of course, I'm on the PS3 remastered version, so it's not as cool, but it does make me wonder why more games, especially in modern times, don't offer cross-save rewards like this. Man, we had it good on the PS2 with accessing older weapons for free, unlocking Ratchet in Jak X. Hell, Jak X had a ton of save file related unlockables for both PS2 and PSP games. We really should see more of this, but I guess the era has passed us by. Now it's all V-Bucks and battle passes.
Hey, when am I gonna be in Fortnite? I'm not getting paid again until 2029. Help a brother out.
Oh my god, Ratchet? Really? Begging for money on the internet? Ah, you're better than that. This video is brought to you by Patreon! I hope you thought that was worth your $5. Once we reach Siberius and first encounter this bad dude, is when the game really goes from another exceptionally awesome title to a goddamn masterclass in game design. Firstly, the scene running and jumping along the convoy. It seems Naughty Dog took some notes from this one, but seeing a set piece like this achieved so flawlessly on the PS2 is impressive to say the least. It feels like as you jump from truck to truck that you're chugging along a massive road through the mountains, and the map shows as much. However, with a cheeky little free cam, we can see that it's actually just one singular circuit. Man, I'm always impressed with magic tricks like this. So, after a quick throw of handbags, we get the fuzzy nutsack back for Shit Widget before he dumps us out in the middle of nowhere. Awesome, thanks for that. This is when the masked bad guy is finally unmasked, and it turns out to be Ratchet's mother or something? I don't know, sorry, I wasn't really paying attention. I was too busy being confused as to why there's just a conveniently placed TV at the bottom of this canyon. In the first game, the humorous little exposition videos were presented as infobots, but now they're just like, screw it, just have a bunch of floating TVs around the place. It's an unimportant nitpick, but man, why throw away the established logic? Anyway, about Ratchet's mother. Look, I'm assuming it's his mum. Based on my research, they seem to love each other very much, so I'm gonna say it's his mum. Mummy Lombax is later revealed as a former employee of Megacorp who tried to prevent this little proto-pet fella from hitting store shelves, given its pissy little temperament. Why have that little bastard as a pet when you can have your very own Ratchet?
Don't fucking touch me.
So, in order to continue our adventure, we've got to raise funds for a new ship. If we were anywhere else in the game, we'd have battle arenas to grind out for substantial bolt rewards, or even the hoverbike races, which are fine. I think I prefer them to the hoverboard races in the first game, given that everything is just a lot more refined overall, but the strategy is mostly just holding down the boost until you win, so it's kind of whatever. But we can't do any of that because here we are stranded on the desolate planet Tabora, because even Ratchet's own mother won't give him a ride. Wow, what a bitch. So we've got to find another way to earn some cash. This introduces one of my favourite aspects of the game: farming for crystals. Venture out into the unmapped void and you'll start to find enemies out here guarding these precious gemstones which need to be collected and traded for cash in order to get out of here. Oh, I fucking love that. Maybe it's just my collectathon ape brain talking, but I really like to see this kind of gimmick when it pops up. You know, I like stumbling into treasure chests in adventure games. Hell, even exploring the extended gas bar in the 2016 movie game and collecting all of the brains was just so much fun. In fact, now that I think about it, it was probably the most fun I had playing that game. But look, I've only played these 5 titles out of the series. However, I am aware that this concept becomes a recurring theme throughout the PS3 years, but for now anyway, I think this is so much fun and really scratches a specific itch. There are 2 of these locations in the game to encourage exploration, the ice one being much more tedious, but hey, it still serves its purpose. Though, now that I think about it, have you ever noticed that Ratchet 2 has 2 of everything? 2 collection planets, 2 hoverbike races, 2 Lombaxes, 2 gladiator arenas with 2 boss characters in each, 2 different door unlocking gadgets, 2 types of nanotech, 2 platforming tools, the swing shot and the dynamo. Each weapon can be upgraded twice by using them frequently enough, and we've got 2 best friends saving the galaxy.
Aww. And I've got 2 scars where my gonads used to be.
Now that I think about it, there are also 2 times in the game when Clank hits the juice and goes full roid rage on a helpless planet. Much like the flying, giant Clank was a total afterthought before, so it's nice to see that they got off their ass and made something out of this. Although I kind of wish they hadn't. These sections break the pacing as they take forever. Honestly, compared to some of the best platformer collectathons you can name, this game, which is primarily a shooter, excels in fleshing out its worlds with discovery and these types of fun little gameplay moments that are what create those formative memories for the player. It's something that the first game achieved well enough with the hidden golden bolts, which make a return once again, but on top of that, some levels also contain hidden areas or even boss fights that require certain abilities to access returning later on. So scanning the environment for things that you might have missed creates such a fulfilling adventure. Man, these levels are something else. I mean, Metropolis was very detailed, with a seemingly endless cityscape extending beyond the horizon. And we do have similar set pieces here, but so many of the locations really stand out so much more for me. Joba has the jungle mountaintops with a consistent mix of platforming and combat. Smolg has the floating industrial setting we need to fly around freely in order to navigate and get lost in a huge warehouse with enemies around every corner. Maktar Resort's moon area is still so astonishing to me, and maybe that's my demo disc nostalgia fronting, but being able to pause the game and rotate the entire location as a map was and still is so damn cool. There's so many of these locations really stand out much more, whether it's for their theming, the music, the gimmicks, or just the top tier execution of the gameplay loop. I mean, listen, if I was to rank all of the Ratchet and Clank levels someday, Jesus Christ, I only just started talking about these games and people are already on my ass about it. Right now, based on what I've played, Boldan would be in the upper echelon. Man, this is such a dynamite stage with rail grinds, heated gunfights, cleverly placed collectibles and secrets. It's got that magnet boot stuff which has been vastly improved since the last game. Remember, it was like gluing your scrot to your foreskin? Well, now we can jump and freely use all of our regular weapons with no restrictions, allowing these segments to truly steal the show. But, and of course, there is always a but, a big thromping arse in the way of a good time. I do have some gripes, and look, I'm going to start with the minor annoyances, just to get them out of the way. Look, it's not the biggest dilemma in the world, but the way weapons are managed in this game is often a bit hit and miss for me. And let's start with the upgrades, for example. Well, they should be upgrades, right? So why does the lava gun, one of the best weapons, when it's leveled up to the meteor gun, shit the bed so severely? We've also got the Rhino 2, which is fucking boss, by the way, and nice to actually get some use out of it this time despite the hefty price tag. So why then is the Clank Zapper the most pointless heap of shit I've ever seen since the tiptoeing in Wrath of Cortex cost a staggering 1 million bolts? I mean, get real! And that's before we take into consideration different suits of armour as well. But it is super satisfying to see just how souped up you can get. He's a little tank down here obliterating everything, and that's still not all. Weapon mods can be purchased with our rare bolts, which add better lock-on and effects like electrocution and continuous poison damage to different weapons. However, it's strange that these upgrades aren't built into regular weapon leveling. Perhaps if the rare bolts were tied to some other upgrade, like purchasing armor, it would save you more funds for buying weapons instead. But I think even more important than that is remembering to upgrade your spaceship with the hottest arms on the market. I'm just glad that these require raritanium instead of cash. So that's just some minor stuff that I noticed that began to creep up and that kind of bugged me while I was playing. Your experience may vary. But then we get to the late game, and man, if I had $1 for every time a game fell off a cliff by the third act, well, I could probably afford the Clank Zapper and not feel so awful about wasting so much money on the shitting thing. This level on Snivelak with the Bleak City Arena where we fight Thugs for Less guy and a giant robot. Fuck off, please, sir. This is one of the most dog shit boss fights, only because it takes forever. Dude is a sponge, no better analogy for it. I've seen some pretty rancid fights like this in my time that try to match the same grandeur of, say, Crash Bandicoot vs. Engine, David vs. Goliath. But none are comparable. In fact, this one right here might actually be the worst of them all. Even the Futurama game comes to mind, but at least that was fucking brief. From here, all of the levels start to feel somewhat rushed out of the door. Grelban, as I mentioned, already feels more tedious, but then the level introduces a second controllable robot character. We take control over these guys using the Hypnomatic to infiltrate and create a path for our heroes, but why can't Clank do this? First of all, it's a headache having to run around scavenging spare parts, blowing all your spare bolts just so a guy can build you the damn thing, so that's a pain in the ass already. Secondly, Clank's already got his established gameplay. Why make a second robot character? Oh, well, I guess this one can shoot, so that's different. But then what is the point of the Clank Zapper? Why not just give Clank the ability to shoot and solve this entire problem? He was able to shoot in goddamn PlayStation Move Heroes. Makes one of your main characters look like a useless muppet at the last minute. Listen, it's not that I don't like these quick shifts between the bots with a timer and gunfire and all that, because it honestly fits much more in line with the game's core focus. But at that point, well, why not just be playing as Ratchet? Oh, and by the way, these little fellas here only show up, take a guess, 2 times. Immediately before the final level, and at the start of the final level. Stupid. But look, I can't be too sour because this final level actually lives up to the game's build-up, because what we have at our fingertips is a glorious gauntlet that tests us on all of our abilities with a big flurry right before the final boss. Okay, let's talk about Jizz Widget. So, In case you missed all the countless references to the disgraced Captain Quark shown at various intervals throughout the story, Fizzwidget is revealed to be Quark in disguise. But this reveal honestly left me with more questions than answers, but I couldn't quite put my finger on why this simply does not work. So, talking it over with some mates, I've got to credit my buddy Russ for hitting the nail right on the head with this. At no point is it ever established when this impersonation began. So was it really Fizzwidget who contracted us to help recover the missing experiment? Was he being passively negligent regarding the dangerous proto-pet, or was it all just Quark from the very start? It's all so confusing and feels almost lazy just for it to be Quark. Had Fizzwidget actually been evil or just really dumb and served as the main villain, then Quark could have come in to save the day and fucked everything up, as goes in the game, or just remained absent until the events of Ratchet 3. I mean, come on, the less Quark screen time, the genuinely better I think these games are. So yeah, the big reveal, as obvious it was, sucks a massive cock. Using a machine which amplifies the proto-pet into a giant man-eating monster, the final battle is just a big barrage of bullets. It's okay, but I think I preferred Drek, given there were some actual steps to the process beyond just dumping your ammo all over the place. So, with the nutsack scorched and the real Fizzwidget back in command, the world is saved and our heroes return home to watch some freaky robot stuff.
My goodness.
But our hero's end is not yet in sight. New Game Plus opened a whole world of delight.
From all of the quality of life improvements, all the new guns, the fun gameplay additions, and the overall enhancements across the board, I just couldn't get enough of it. So I kept playing, and I kept playing, and I kept playing, and I simply could not turn it off. For a bit of context, I get burnt out on games very easily. Honestly, it might be a contributing factor to why I've been such a nasty pasty these last 10 years or so, because by the time I'm finished with a game, I have had enough. It doesn't matter how much I love it, it could be a timeless classic from my childhood or some newfound love for a game that I've waited years to play. The thought of even looking at it, let alone playing it again for at least another year, is well beyond my usual tolerance. So why then, if I have such disdain for follow-up playthroughs, then why did I immediately play through the entire game a second time in a single sitting?
Maybe that's because you don't have any responsibilities. You know, some of us actually grew up and have real jobs now.
Oh yeah? Well, what do you do for work?
'Cause you're gorgeous.
Okay, so New Game Plus, the additional challenge mode that is unlocked following completion of the story, is back again, and I thought I'd check it out. I mean, after all, you know I like to be thorough, despite the idea of breezing through some earlier levels with supercharged weapons having always felt a little redundant to me, like in the first game. Well, on the contrary, I actually fucking loved it this time. And I am so glad to have been wrong on this one. Ratchet 2 introduces New Game Plus as an entirely fresh experience. Now sure, we're doing the same levels over again, and you can even access skips to bypass some of the more tedious areas, but where Ratchet 2 excels is actually making this feel like a challenge mode. Enemies are tougher, even in the earlier stages, so you've got to upgrade your weapons for a second time, and suddenly, something that was average becomes extraordinary. Our big screen-wiping boomsticks like the Rhino 2, the Plasma Coil and the Zodiac aren't just for show, they're essential to your survival. Everything is scaled up perfectly, so the game doesn't lose any of its challenge, and if anything, actually requires the player to be more switched on. Of course, ammunition and many of the more luxurious purchases are going to be made during that second playthrough, and to help afford all of this, well, New Game Plus introduces the Bolt Multiplier. Yes. Now, if you're able to hold a combo of kills without taking a hit, you can achieve multipliers of up to 20 times on every single bolt that you pick up on your journey, and my god, dude, this is so satisfying. I don't even care about saving up to buy anything. Number go up equals satisfaction boner. And along with the PS3 trophies and skill points, you are encouraged to upgrade all of your items to their maximum potential to unlock bonus content like different outfits, secret modes, and cheats like a first-person camera, which replenishes the potential replay value even further. As if there wasn't already enough content in this game, the way Insomniac is able to squeeze it for everything it's worth and not have it lose interest is like nothing I've ever played, honestly. Listen, no hyperbole, throughout my entire life playing games, I could probably list the ones that were so amazing that I had to play through them a second time immediately on a single hand. This is just how my brain functions, okay? Yet somehow, Ratchet 2 was able to break my programming, which just makes me so happy to be able to admit that. Because now, we get to explore one of the most fantastic inclusions in any game that I think I've ever seen. The Insomniac Museum. A litany of behind-the-scenes content that teaches us how this game was actually programmed. For the first time, the Insomniac Museum makes an appearance in Ratchet 2 as a hidden Easter egg and unlockable area that allows you to explore the Insomniac office of 2003 and see all of the unreleased content and tech demos from both Ratchet games. With interactive elements, huge areas to explore and playtest yourself, there are even in-game effects that you can mess around with in real time to experiment with different results. Oh man, this right here, this is why I love games. It's not just the process, not just the art or the final product, but when the synergy across a dedicated and passionate team delivers an experience like no other. Forget all of my gripes. Going Commando top to bottom is one of the most solid experiences that I've ever played. With fun, memorable environments, excellent writing, and action so kick-ass it was the headline on the back of the box. I am so happy to finally give Ratchet & Clank 2 a rightly deserved 8 out of 10. This game is just... Oh my god, Ratchet. You are just incredible.
And they lived happily ever after. Thank you for joining me, everybody, and if you enjoyed the video, then subscribe and hit the bell so that you don't miss the thrilling conclusion to the Ratchet & Clank trilogy. I'm Eyed Jak, and I hope you have a great fucking day.
Cut! Oh my god, this shouldn't be so difficult. For God's sakes, what was wrong with that one?
What's wrong with it? Oh, how many times do I have to tell you, dude? We need passion. The people need to believe that you want them to have a great fucking day. And by the way, you're not Eyed Jak, you're Ratchet. So please just get it right
Don't
for
get
once.
me started, okay? I am so sick of working under these conditions. You know what? Finish the damn videos yourself.
Oh, come on, dude. Don't walk out on me. No, I'm sorry. Look, dude, you can't go. We have a contract and a deadline. Get your ass back in the chair. Shit. Look, I'll show you how easy it is to do a goddamn line read, okay? It's really not that difficult. I'm Ratchet, and I hope you have a great fucking day. Thanks for watching. You see, it's really not that difficult. Goddamn actors with all their bullshit. Such prima donnas.